I call to order this regular meeting of the Lindsay City Council and request that the clerk take roll.
Councilmember Velasquez.
Present.
Councilmember Watson.
Present.
Councilmember Cortez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Here.
Mayor Kimball.
Here.
What did I say?
It's all the present. Here stuff. Okay.
Gotta
Thank
buck
you.
the system.
Let's all please stand while Councilmember Watson leads the flag salute.
Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would invite Bishop Inglesby of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to come forward to the podium, to the microphone if you would, and offer our invocation this evening. Thank you for being here.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for this privilege of living in this great country and being a part of this community. We thank Thee for those who give of their time and talents to serve here, for this council, for the staff, and for all the citizens of this community. We thank Thee for the many blessings that we all have, and we pray that this city might continue to be a good place for people to come and raise their families and live out their lives. We pray that Thy blessings will be upon this council this evening and always as they deliberate and as they represent us and make decisions, that they might be guided by Thy Holy Spirit and led by Thee and what they do. We pray that Thou bless all of the people in this land, in this community who are struggling and who are in need, that they might find ways to overcome their challenges. And we ask these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Bishop Inglesby. Our next item is public comment period. The public is invited to comment on any subject under the jurisdiction of the Lindsay City Council, including agenda items other than notice public hearings. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person, with 30 minutes overall for the entire comment period. Participants may speak at the stand after clearly stating their name for the clerk.
My name is Eric Sinclair. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen in City Hall. My name is Eric Sinclair. I'm Sinclair Television, KBH, Fox 26. Sinclair Television, KBAK, Bakersfield 29. Sinclair Television, KSNV, Channel 3, Las Vegas, Revolution Studios. And one of the things I wanted to talk about this week is one of the names that I've gone by when I was younger was Stephen Levitan. And Stephen Levitan was kind of like a stage name, if you will, like a see movie stars, they go by other names, and just like my half brother, Mark Sinclair, you might know him as Vin Diesel. That's what he goes by. Vin Diesel was his stage name. So I went by Stephen Levitan, and such as so one of the TV shows that Stephen Levitan created was Modern Family, and the way I did it was I thought of the name Modern Family, so that way every episode, every year, this TV show would be modern, because it's in the name, Modern Family. So it would always be up to date. And I'll talk about other things next city council meeting. I love the city of Lindsay. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
Two of your favorites. Good evening, council staff. My name is Trudy Wisherman,
and tonight I want to make a formal complaint about our last meeting on April 10th. Bill Ziegler pulled a fast one, or tried to, with regard to the noticed public hearing that was required for you to consider and approve the roundabout site plan review. Resolution 18-01, which you approved at the February 13th meeting, 5-0. That resolution states that the final project design will be reviewed by the City Council during a noticed public hearing, at which time the Council may approve, disapprove, or impose conditions of approval. But we didn't get a noticed public hearing, we got a kangaroo court. When the agenda item was announced, Bill Ziegler jumped to his feet like a rabbit, told everybody in the room that it was a public hearing, and proceeded to run through the project review like it was a race already run. There was no public discussion by any of you of any of the details. There was no interested member of the public there even to ask you questions. It was a railroad job, and you, with the exception of Mayor Kimball, who is absent, you are the happy passengers on the train. As a result, I'm submitting to you a letter of demand for cure and correct of this action by the Council under the Ralph M. Brown Open Meeting Law. In addition, my attorney and I are restating our request for special written notice of any public hearings regarding this project, a request which was made in our February 28th letter but not respected. There's a real problem with the integrity of the planning process in this town. If we had a planning commission like every other little town in this region, like Farmersville and Woodlake, there would be more time for public input and education about what you're trying to build here with public funds. But without that forum, it's incredibly more important that the public processes that you are mandated to follow be done right. When a community like ours goes through the kind of changes we're going through right now, there's a huge opportunity to build new relationships through the planning process. With no integrity to the process, however, there's a real likelihood that a sense of community will be smashed. I encourage you to take this moment to start to do things right. Thank you.
Up like a rabbit, Trudy? Rabbit. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to address the council under public comment?
Salvador tenía un comentario que decir.
Sí, un comentario.
Venga aquí enfrente, le traduzco.
My name is Salvador Segura. Hace por 40 years me working in Orange. ¿Alguno de ustedes ha trabajado en Orange?
Haven't we worked in
Good. Very good. Working very good. Days working, days no working, pero it's good. Okay? Este man very happy me, porque este man del 17 en los United States me dieron el permiso. It's very good for me. Por eso estoy aquí hablando con ustedes. Mi pregunta es, me no working for 3 years. Me agarro mi Social Security el tri de cada man. Y mi pregunta es, ¿puedo pagar el aguaro el tri del man? Porque me no agarra my money hasta el tri de cada man. Si no lo pago el tri, me cobran $10 more. Y $10 me sirve para echar de gas a my car, porque si no empty. Es una pregunta nomás, si se puede, bueno, y si no, es alright. Lo que ustedes digan para mí es alright. Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you guys? So more than anything, he was posing a question. You know, he's been here for 17 years and he's happy here. He hasn't been working for a number of years now. He does receive Social Security. His check comes in on the 3rd of the month. So he's asking if it would be okay for him to pay his water bill at that time without the late fee, because there's a $10 late fee that would help him like put gas in his car or something to that effect. So he says, you know, it's just a question, you know, whatever you decide, I'm okay with it. It's, you know, it's just like a financial burden. So he was just asking about the payment date for the water bill.
Maybe we should review that.
We can have staff review that, I guess. Okay.
It's delineated in the municipal code right now, so you'd have to change that if you want to have it due on a different date.
Well, would it be due on a different date for everybody, or can we help?
Yeah.
They would just have to change the ordinance?
It
be
just
after the
says
first?
when it's due.
And how much difference is there between when it's due and when this gentleman says he?
$10 fee.
I
When does
mean,
the- when does it
what-
become
how
late?
many days?
About a week,
A week?
because it's due on the 25th, right?
It's on the 25th, but you get it a month before, so you got,
So you have
3 to 4
I thought you
weeks
had
to-
like
yeah.
a month leeway.
before the late fee kicks in, you got 3 to 4 weeks.
Well,
Staff would be happy to review it and report back to council.
Yeah, we could probably talk to them, explain how it works and then figure it out.
Salvador, la discusión que se estaba llevando a cabo ahorita nada más es de que el 25 es la fecha que se ha asignado por el Código Municipal, pero hemos estado hablando de que a lo mejor es posible revisar esa fecha y ver si hay alguna otra fecha que sea más conveniente para toda la comunidad, porque no se puede hacer excepción para una persona, tendría que ser un cambio para todos.
Mi pregunta es, todo el pueblo, si no pagan ese día, le están cobrando $10.
Sí.
Entonces, mi pregunta es, ¿por qué no ayudar a la gente? Porque $10 son $10. Uno trabaja poco. El trabajo no es mucho, el trabajo es poco, entonces esos $10 le sirven para comprar algo para la familia o para otro bill.
So his
Porque
thing-
digamos apenas, no
So we need
tenemos mucho más.
we need to not have a discussion back and forth between us. Or just let him know that we've referred it to staff.
Ok, gracias por sus comentarios. Ya le hemos indicado a los empleados de la ciudad que revisen esa porción de cómo funciona el sistema y después en un futuro volvemos a tocar ese tema y ojalá hay
Dentro de un mes vengo a ver cuál es la respuesta. ¿Os ok?
He'll come back in a month and see if there's been anything
All right?
done.
And if I may, Council, Maria, do we have Mr. Segura's phone number?
I don't.
Would you please get it before he leaves?
Okay. Anyone else wishing to address the council under public comment?
Can't leave, Trudy.
If not, we will close public comment period and move on to our next item, which is council reports. Council members, beginning with Councilman Velasquez, anything to report?
Not at this time, no. Not at this time?
Councilwoman Cortez?
I don't have anything.
What? We all say no, so give me more time.
We haven't met since Orange Blossom. I'd like to thank everybody that was involved. It turned out to be a successful day. The weather worked for us. The most people I've seen out there in probably 4 or 5 years, I'd say. Thanks to Kiwanis, the football team. Everybody worked together and put on a great event. Really appreciate it. And thanks for putting us on the fire truck again.
All right. Well, bear with me. I have a few things to report. But just ditto on what Mayor Pro Tem Singh has said, with the addition of thanking him and Councilwoman Cortez for all of their work on making a successful Orange Blossom Festival. It was a really good festival this year. The TCAG trip to Washington, D.C. It was a good trip. It was a well-managed trip. On the messages that we give as we make our rounds, they're repetitive, same as last year and likely the year before. We continue to try to keep them at the forefront of decision makers' minds, and this has worked for us pretty well over the years. One item we continue to bring up, and we seem to be getting some traction on, is the request for relief from the mandate to update the regional transportation plan every 4 years, because it's so expensive and it just is a waste of time and resources to do it that often for us. So this was the first time that we were able to deliver that message in the executive branch, and that was our first meeting, and that went well, and they were supportive. which helped us in talking with other agencies and people that they knew that, well, the lighthouse seems to be kind of behind it. So that was, we thought that was good in that way. We got some good information on the infrastructure proposals that the White House has put forth. Our main concern is that, so there's a rural set-aside part to the package, and the way it looks now, no one in the San Joaquin Valley would qualify for the rural set-aside, even though we're totally ag and have all these rural communities, because the definition of rural is a county that doesn't have an urban area over 50,000 people. And every county in the valley has at least one of those cities. So we're working with McCarthy staff in particular, seems to be willing to take up that cause and see if that definition can be changed as the bills move forward. So felt good about that. We're also proposing a program to help fund critical farm-to-market roads, and by this we really mean our dairy roads that have all these really heavy trucks and are just getting beat up down to bare earth, and without the funding to improve them. So we make a little progress. It seems to be well received. Our lobbyist had an interesting suggestion. He said, next time you come out, have a bunch of ice cream from our great, Haagen-Dazs and whatever, Superior Ice Cream, or what am I thinking of, the place that does the milk that's so good, like the flavored milk.
Tops or Top of the Morning.
Roses. Anyway, bring some really great dairy products out and have an ice cream social and invite, these legislatures and their staff and that to come to that and see how that goes. So we may actually try that next time. Seemed like a good idea. There was a TCAG meeting yesterday. It included a budget workshop. The takeaway from that is that the budget is tight for this next year, and we're all used to that, but TCAG's feeling it too. Reserves were spent last year on the ADA plans that benefited us so much, but the reserves are down now. We'll be having some finance decisions coming to us in the near future. Transit in the county is apparently facing a crisis with rising costs, and so there's some answers out there if agencies will agree to form a JPA of all the different agencies so that you can have efficiency of costs. And maybe some talk about changing Dial-A-Ride to something that's more financially doable, like some sort of an Uber system, something like that. Dial-A-Ride is on our agenda, and I'm sure, nothing's going to happen really soon about that, but just looking at how to make that work better. More related to us, the Cross Valley Corridor Plan has been released. This was paid for by High Speed Rail. It can stand alone if High Speed Rail never goes in. They say it's just connecting a lot of valley towns in the future, improving mobilities, looking forward into the future. It's kind of a futuristic sort of a plan. It's feasible because rail right-of-way still exists on all these cities that are being connected. The plan calls for transit stations in every community along the track. Lindsay and Farmersville don't currently have stations or transit centers. So, but the Cross Valley Rail Plan came in under budget. So there's some money that either has to be returned or used. So TCAG voted yesterday to use that money to develop station plans, designs, site selection, and design plans for Lindsay and for Farmersville. So that'll be happening this next year. The cost to build, they said, could potentially come from SB1 monies, and maybe as soon as 3 or 4 years. So this is something that we need to be talking about with the city manager and TCAG. I think it's kind of exciting because it really could maybe happen in the near future if we can put it together. And that's my report. We don't have a student report today, so we'll move on to staff reports. Bill?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Staff's going full bore on the budget. Brett will be reaching out to the ad hoc committee for the budget ad hoc committee to work out some schedule that works for you to review the preliminary draft and start making adjustments there. From city services, lots going on there. A lot of water flowing out of Millerton. It's created turbidity in the canal. We've turned the plant off. It's settled down. We've turned the plant back on. Water is good for us right now. Things are running like they're supposed to. Mike's been involved with the Tulare-Kern Funding Area Integrated Regional Water Management Disadvantaged Community Involvement Program Public Advisory Committee. Say that 10 times quick. It's an organization that's looking at disadvantaged communities and trying to find money for water projects. Is that a good summary there, Mike, for disadvantaged community, of which we are one? So we're very interested in what they're able to do. We'll participate in that and see what fruit is born from that effort. Soccer park conversion. Mike has met with interested landscape contractors to discuss the lay of the land and what's necessary. The design build bid is due next Tuesday, May the 1st, and also finalizing the building contractors to do necessary renovations at the clubhouse. So that is moving forward. Roundabout projects, construction plans and specs have been completed. Landscape plans are under final review. Final right-of-way documents are expected this week, and once review is completed and meeting with the property owners, bidding will begin. So we're excited about launching that thing off and getting a true sense of what that's going to cost. Had a USDA site visit last week. Was that expected, Mike?
Yeah, it's
impromptu.
Yeah.
Okay. Came through, looked at the wellness center, the library, sewer, and water facilities. No discrepancies were noted. It's just good to check in and meet with our counterparts there. Wellness, lots of things happening out there. During March promotional membership drive, 38 new members were signed up, and then during April promotion, 27 have signed up. So Lisa's doing a good job out there. We're in ongoing tenant discussions with Omni Medical. Met with them just this past week, and I think some things are coming together for that. Dollars for Scholars fundraiser will be held April the 28th, right around the corner here at the Wellness Aquatic Center. Hope everybody's going to attend that. A really great cause. Lindsay High School prom is scheduled at the Wellness Center for May the 12th. Tons and tons of notes. Youth Baseball Softball League is operating through mid-May. Youth Soccer League operating through mid-June. Currently taking applications for swim, taking applications for summer lifeguards. Certification for certified lifeguard renewal certification will happen on May the 5th. Just tons and tons of things going on. Lisa did attend the City of Dinuba's Certified Farmers Market. We've had some folks pitching doing one of those here. And it's a really great program, but it's manpower intensive, and we're probably going to take a pass on it at least this year until financially things are a bit more stable for us. We thought initially we could do a lot of it with volunteers, but as she's looked at the structure that were held up as models for us, we don't have that depth to dedicate the time to it. If there's renewed interest or we find groups of volunteers that want to help us with that and council wants to push in that direction, we can certainly reconsider. And I will pass these notes, the detailed notes, along to you a little bit later on, but those are the highlights. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council might have.
Thank you, Bill. Are there any questions? No. Great. We will move on then to our consent calendar. Item 4, to be approved with one motion unless anyone wants to pull something off. We have the City Council meeting minutes for April 10th, warrant list for April 17th, Treasurer's Report for February of 2018, and Treasurer's Report for March 2018, and a temporary use permit Mother's Day flower stand. Council members, what
Move for
action?
approval. Second.
It's been moved by Palauskas.
Yes.
Seconded by Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 5 is an informational item. We have with us tonight Paul Saldana from the Economic Development Corporation to give us an update. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thank you. And Mayor, members of the council, you have a presentation handout before you, and it'll also be up here on the screen for the others. But I just wanted to come and provide the opportunity to give you an update on some of the organizational changes that are taking place at the at the EDC, talk a little bit about the benefits that go along with your participation in the EDC, and then talk a little bit about the current activity. I'm going to walk through just, you've heard our vision and mission, but I always like to remind folks our vision is to be the premier location in California to live, work, and play. And next slide. And our mission, next slide, is to be the regional leader of economic development. And those two things we strive to make sure that they're part of everything that we do. This next slide, in addition to this nice picture, points out the fact that we've been in existence. This quote was from a few months ago when we were 34 years old. This year we celebrate our 35th anniversary, which we'll be celebrating later on this year. But we're one of the oldest economic development organizations in the state of California, and we continue to strive to set high standards for everything that we do. Some of those standards include being, this says Central California's only accredited EDO, and I haven't updated this, but we're now California's only accredited EDO. The Sacramento EDC didn't renew their accreditation, so that leaves us as the only accredited organization that has achieved that. We're in the top 1% of economic development organizations in North America. There are about 70 or so organizations that have gone through that process. We have California's only certified sites program, and we offer California's only business incentive zone. So over the first part of the fiscal year, we went through and really took a serious look at our essential services, recognizing the concern that some of the cities had in terms of the costs that are associated with funding the EDC and the services that we provide. And so with the work of the board and the city managers group, and I'd like to thank your city manager and Councilmember Velasquez for their participation, we had special meetings and weekly meetings and conference calls and everything just to come to this point of identifying what is it that the EDC does for the cities. And so this is kind of our essential services. We create awareness for Tulare County. We create a response for those that are interested in Tulare County. We make them informed more thoroughly about what's available here through demographics and site tours, and then we help to reach a decision for Tulare County. One of the things that I guess a lot of folks, as we went around and had the discussion, said, well, the cities do a lot of the work once the company decides to locate in that community. Well, that's the way it's supposed to be. We hand off to that local jurisdiction, and sort of our work is done. So that's a natural transfer point for us. The next slide. So what we did was we did some organizational restructuring. We eliminated, this is our transition year, we're eliminating all of our contractual obligations that are not directly related to marketing or business development. We reduced the public sector contribution level for this fiscal year by 56%. And so that savings went to all of the cities this year and next year as well. We restructured to reduce our expenses and, again, eliminate everything that wasn't directly related to business recruitment services and activity. We've worked and are continuing to work with the cities to identify their individual economic development needs and how we can more uniquely tailor what we do to what the cities would like to see done. And in this next fiscal year, we will be adding, or actually, I should say in this next several weeks, we will be adding a business finance program which will generate more revenue for the EDC and further reduce the city's contribution. So this is what the picture looks like moving forward. The current level for the city of Lindsay was $7,543. That's what you contributed this year. The new level is $4,211. So that's a reduction of $3,312. So this is what the fiscal impact is for you. This is the good news, and I have really good news. So the good news is not only did you receive that reduction, but because the city is one of the cities that had paid when it was originally invoiced, we took that difference and we used that as a credit towards your 2018-19 contribution. So your actual 2018-19 contribution will be $879. That's how much we will be invoicing you come July 1st. The better news is that, as I mentioned, this business finance program, which is what we've done, we did from 1983 until 1999, we were involved in business finance. It was generating over $300,000 a year to the EDC. We spun that off as a separate organization, which that organization no longer exists. It merged with another group in Southern California. So we're stepping up and reclaiming that position to provide business financing. The goal is to continue to reduce the city's contribution level to where it's under 20% of our total operating budget, so that most of our operations will come from the private sector or through the proceeds of the business finance program. So that's the better news that I'm here to share with you. So the benefits for the city of Lindsay, and I think I've mentioned these in the past, but just to remind you that we market for all new businesses. We provide responses for all of our EDC-generated and the state-generated prospects as well. We provide customized retail, occupational, and demographic reports, and they're available on our website specifically for the city as well as for all of the communities in the area. We have specific city-specific demographics and a real estate database as well, and we're on call for as economic development staff expertise. So as your staff needs assistance with anything, we're there and available to help out. Coming soon, I mentioned the business finance program. We also were part of leading the effort to receive designation through the federal government for the Opportunity Zone program, which is really a tax credit type of program. There's some financing element to that as well. We don't have all of the particulars of the regulations, but we do have the commitment from our board to take some of our reserve funding and invest that into starting to put some seed capital together for some of this Opportunity Zone funding. But in essence, it operates as a tax shelter, if you will, for those individuals or companies that have capital gains. So it's a place where they can invest their capital gains, don't have to pay taxes on that. They could defer it for up to 10 years, or they can completely eliminate it altogether. So it's an advantage for them to take some of that money and invest it in communities. And we were able to get a Opportunity Zone designation, at least one designation in every city with the exception of the city of Woodlake, and we fought Sacramento on that and lost, but we're now, I shouldn't say we're fighting Washington, because the folks in Washington are doing everything they can to see that we can do something for Woodlake here in the very near future. So we continue to move forward on that. The next slide. This gives you an indication of our current projects, and I'm happy to report that majority of those projects, 61% are in manufacturing and food processing. Those are head of household types of jobs with benefits. Those are the ones we like to see in the communities where they locate and countywide. And you can see a majority of those projects are generated from our marketing activity. So our marketing activity is actually generating those types of results that we like to see in our performance metrics year after year. Of the projects that we're currently working with, we have 7 active projects that have sites here in the city of Lindsay that are under consideration for those particular projects. And then the final slide, I just always like to highlight this information from the Workforce Investment Board, but this shows your workforce and your employment, and you can see you have folks that both live and work here, you have folks that work outside of the city, and you have folks that come into the city for work. And so this really is a demonstration of how dynamic our labor economy is in Tulare County. No individual city is relying upon itself for employment and for wealth generation, and so that's why it's important for us to continue to chase every project we can and expose them to every possible location there is in the county. But at the end of the day, everyone benefits from the new jobs that are created. So again, I'd like to just thank you for your continued participation and support of the EDC. Thank staff and Councilmember Velasquez for actively participating, especially over the last several months as we've gone through this process. We recognize the situation that the cities are in, and we've moved as rapidly as we can to position the EDC to not lose any traction, any ground in terms of what we do, but make sure that we're a good partner, both in terms of program, but also financially as well, with each of the jurisdictions that we represent. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Paul. Any questions?
So do you, Paul, do you know offhand what the 7 active projects here in Lindsay are?
I may. So we have one is an energy related company. I'm not sure what type of, whether it's solar or some other type of energy. So that's one project. A manufacturing project. I have the job count. So the first one was 20 jobs. The manufacturing prospect is 150 jobs. Let me go down the list here. Another manufacturing company, 300 jobs, 200,000 square feet. An office, lab operation, research development, 40 jobs. Manufacturing, 100,000 square feet, 50 jobs. Manufacturing, 50,000 square feet, 20 jobs. And a distribution facility, 40,000 square feet, 50 jobs.
Great, thank you.
Those are, and by the way, the information is readily available. The staff and our board representative gets the report every month. So anytime you'd like to know, they have that information available.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All the opportunity zone, how long is that going to take to go into effect?
That's up to the Department of Treasury. This one was kind of a backwards situation in that the legislation that authorized it was in the tax bill. It was signed by the President in December, and it gave the states the ability to designate the zones before May 21st of this year. And then it told the IRS and the Department of Treasury, go write the regulations. Well, obviously, they couldn't come up with the regulations in that time. So we're anticipating in probably the next 60 days or so, we can start to set up, and we have started the process of setting up the Opportunity Fund, which is a way to receive the money for investments. But then how that reporting goes, none of us have any clue of how that might look. But hopefully it'll just be a little postcard that we could fill out at the end of the year and send in. So.
I've been, since I've been on the council, I've been almost on the EDC board about as many years. So that means probably half the time for the 35 years, half of that is what I've been on. And the progress that they've made since the first couple of years that I've been on, the website, for instance, is changed dramatically, especially as it relates to our community and people. I know Bill has worked hard with getting them the data for basically an inventory of what we have, so we can share that. People can go to EDC's website and link to our website and get some the demographics that they need for the population, the working population, the incomes, the facilities that are available, all those kind of things. And I know EDC has been a good partner and hustling for us out there and being that wingman, introducing us to people and talking us up. So I appreciate what you've done, and we'll keep working, moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you, Paul. Okay, thank you.
Our next item is a public hearing for conditional use permit number 18-10, resolution 1819. And Brian Sponhurst is supposed to present that, so Mike gets to do it. All right, Mike, you're on.
Thank you, Mayor Kimball. Conditional use permit 18-10 is a request by Guillermo Gallegos to establish an ambulance service within the central commercial zoning district at 295 West Hermosa Street. The proposed use would occupy an existing structure and requires no alterations as permitted. The granting of the CUP is a discretionary approval. Council may deny the request, approve the request, or approve the request with conditions. A couple of side notes. Parking. There's sufficient off-street parking available along the street of the proposed use as use that primarily serves the community off-site. The only anticipated on-site parking needed will be for employees. There is a parking area in the rear of the building that will allow sufficient space for employees to park. There's a site plan up on the screen for your review. Trash disposal for occupants shall be via dumpster or cans located near the rear of the building at the site to be determined by the city. At this point in time, there's a couple of cans, or there were cans for the existing business there. I don't know that we're going to vary much because of this use to go to a bin. Environmental review. SEQA identifies existing facilities as categorical exempt. A draft notice of exemption has been prepared and has been available for public review. Council may adopt the notice of exemption with project approval with the attached resolution. Certain policy issues in certain districts, conditional uses are permitted subject to the granting of a use permit. Because of their unusual characteristics, conditional uses require special consideration so that they may be located properly with respect to the objectives of the zoning code and their effects on surrounding properties. In order to achieve these purposes and thus give the district use regulations of this title additional flexibility necessary to achieve the objectives of the title, City Council is empowered to grant or to deny the applications for use permits and to impose reasonable conditions upon the granting of use permits. Zoning and land use subject property is Zone CC, Central Commercial, and the general surrounding land use includes light industrial to the north and south, Central Commercial to the west, and mixed use to the east. The Central Commercial Zoning District is intended to serve the entire community with commercial uses that are centrally located. Access to the subject property is provided via West Hermosa Street. The site is within a convenient response time of public safety services, and the existing and available water supply and conveyance facility provide adequate fire suppression capabilities. Sanitary sewer and municipal water services are available at the site. The subject property, like the immediate surrounding area, is not within a flood hazard area. Just for council's information, the company that would be locating at this site is Imperial Ambulance. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I'm sorry. So is Imperial is proposing that they become the primary ambulance company for the city?
No, an additional ambulance company.
An additional, they're not part of the rotation at this point?
No. That's a different company. What's the name of it?
Well, there's Exeter, there's American, there's periodically Lifestars here. There's some sort of rotation that the ambulance companies, but I thought Imperial was a part of that rotation as well. Maybe they don't like the accommodations at the fire department, I'm not sure.
Yes. Bingo. Okay.
So would all the rotating ambulances occupy this? Oh. Interesting.
Other questions, comments?
What's the benefit? Is there any benefit? It's going to reduce the time, response time? Doubt it.
Another business coming into town. Business.
Yeah.
So they'll be occupying the actual building,
Correct.
not just parked outside.
That is the request, yes.
If I may, counsel, so we really haven't been in dialogue in conversation with the ambulance company. It's been the property owner that has for some time wanted to get them in there. If you recall, it had been an ambulance service once before when it was zoned light industry. The ambulance company went away. There was the rotation that got set up out of our fire bay, and this took on a couple of different commercial uses. So they changed the zoning from light industry to central commercial, which was appropriate for that because it was never going to be used for industrial along Hermosa there. And so the property owner wanted to put an ambulance service back in there. And it's a conditional use requirement in the central commercial district. So that's why it's back in front of you. But in truth, staff has not been in communication with the ambulance provider at all. They've not reached out to us. It's simply the property owner wanting to do it.
So staff doesn't really have an opinion.
Private business.
Unless the chief has an opinion.
One ambulance company doesn't want to share the same barriers with the other.
Yeah.
So when they're called to cover Lindsay, they're going to station at that building.
So probably the majority of the time, the building will remain unoccupied until Imperial's rotation.
Mike, on the project description in the that went to the papers, it shows Westwood Avenue. Is that going to, will that hurt anything or stop anything or?
No, yeah, it says northeast corner of Hermosa and Westwood, so that is a couple of blocks off. It
That won't stop anything.
Yeah, it identifies the APN number. I can't verify the APN number is property specific. I'd have to look that up. But yeah, you're right. It's showing Westwood, and that should have been Mount Vernon. I can look up the APN number to verify.
Well, this is a public hearing item, so why don't we go ahead and run our public hearing and then bring it back for the council. The public is invited to weigh in, pro or con, if they desire. I now open public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this project.
Yes, my name is Eric Sinclair, and I'm in favor of this proposal being passed. Not only people are stepping up from within the city, along with the help of the county supervisors, making sure that we have full capacity of ambulances. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak in favor of this project? Seeing no one, I would invite anyone to speak who might be against this project. Seeing no one, then we will close public hearing and bring the item back to the council for further discussion or action as you desire.
And for Mayor Pro Tem, in the public hearing notice, the address for the site is correct.
Okay.
It is correct.
The APN is correct as well.
Yeah, it's just the intersection that's incorrect. There should be Hermosa and Mount Vernon. Right.
I just didn't want to approve it and then
Right.
Have it messed up.
have stopped.
Good idea.
The way I always look at when the businesses, it's another business coming into town, whether, I mean, as a property owner, I'm sure he's happy to be able to rent that place out. And if,
Yep.
Yeah, doesn't seem like it's going to hurt anything.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't diminish the response time at all. Do you think that there might be some?
We're not approving the service, we're approving the zoning of the property, right?
No, the zoning is okay. You're approving the use to be in this
We're
property.
including the use as an ambulance.
which it used to be one.
It was one once before.
So as far as coordination, that won't. I mean, the ambulances or the county handles that. As far as the rotation, where they stay is up to us to decide. Correct. I just wouldn't want to see any sort of complication through this rotation of being at two separate buildings and the communication for response getting delayed. Okay.
Okay. If there's no further comment or question, what action would the council like to take?
Move for approval.
Moved by Salinas. Second. Seconded by Cortez. Would the clerk please take roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas,
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, next item will be presented by Chief Hughes, Resolution 1815. Possible approval of the Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act of 2018.
Good evening, council. Over the last several years, at the mandate of the federal government, the state of California's had to reduce its population in the jails. And part of that was Prop 57 and several other legislative moves to get people out of prison early and to shrink that overall thing. And as this law is played out, we've seen some holes in the laws. And what this act is meant to do is close some of those loopholes to give us and the district attorney's offices a little more teeth to dealing with some continual problems. So I'll highlight some of the main points of the act, as it were. It expands the list of violent crimes for which early release is not an option. So under current law, there are several laws that aren't included. Some of those are rape of an unconscious person. If you were to commit that crime, you could be eligible for early release. We're against that. Trafficking of a child for sex, assault on a peace officer, felony domestic violence, other violent felonies. The violent part of it is kind of murky, so they're trying to clean up that language. This is an attempt to just throw everybody back in jail. It's an attempt just to kind of tighten it up a little bit. DNA collection, due to Prop 47, we've lost the ability to collect some DNA in under some certain statutes, so that's lessened our chance of getting that magical, hit on some DNA collected at a crime scene. Property crime is a big one. With your retailers, it was always there was a small threshold to make it a felony. They've raised that threshold, but they've also wiped away everything underneath it. So you can basically walk into a store and steal $950 worth of merchandise, and you might as well have just stole a stick of gum, because it's not going to matter. So they're trying to pull that back in. So if you keep stealing a stick of gum, you can start getting heavier and heavier penalties. Parole violators, a lot of the time now they get out, early release, whatever the problem may be, and the state's just pushing them out the door. Now they're our problem. And I think we've seen this, and we're the ones who have to deal with it. But when we catch them, they're right back. Nobody's taking them back and stuff, so they want to tighten up some of the parole violations and stuff like that. So the California Chiefs Association is heavily supporting this. Governor Brown's against it because it goes against his mandate to reduce population in the jails. The local chiefs and the sheriff are supporting this, and we're asking that the city sign resolutions, and several have already, and it's Lindsay's turn, so we're asking you to support this resolution. And I'll answer any questions if you have them.
Thank you. Questions from the council?
Nope.
It's about time.
I have just one. So what exactly, is this a bill before the legislature? Is this going to be on the ballot? What exactly
That's the
is
hope, that it'll go to the ballot.
Okay.
And Governor Brown's coming out against it, and of course he is.
So it hasn't qualified for the ballot?
Not yet.
Yet. I just remember the League of California Cities addressing this way back last fall.
Yeah, it's been out for a while now.
So is the signature gathering process going on right now? Do we?
I don't know if they've started that yet or not. I would imagine they have.
I signed it the other day.
Okay.
Oh, good.
So it's apparently ongoing.
They're trying to get it on this ballot. I hope they have. So.
Yeah, okay. Very good.
So we have options of, opposing, remaining neutral, or approving. So, or showing support for.
All right.
I would like you to support it.
So I have a question. So if we do support this and, this is signing everything, will you take it somewhere or will we mail?
Yes, the resolution will go to the lobbyists, if you will.
Okay.
And they'll offer it in as a letter of support for the measure to be approved for the ballot. I believe ISAIA has already done it. Dinuba. I know Farmersville may have just
This is the
recently.
list of cities that have
Correct.
supported this.
Correct.
Endorsement.
Okay.
Yes. We're just endorsing. It doesn't change the law.
Okay. What action would the council like to take?
Move for approval of Resolution 1815, a resolution of City Council of the City of Lindsay of supporting the Reducing Crime and Keeping California Safe Act of 2018.
Second.
It's been moved by Velasquez, seconded by Cortez. Guess it need a roll call.
Councilmember Velasquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez.
Aye.
Councilmember Watson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. You have the next one too. All right. Resolution 1816, 2018 Tulare County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Say that 3 times.
Yeah.
Challenge. Okay, this is for the adoption of Resolution 1816 for the Tulare County Multi-Jurisdictional Local Hazard Plan. I was involved in this back in 2012 in the planning process when we first started to redo it then. And they have a nice outline. They hire a company, they come in and they update your demographics, your assets, and what you can provide during these, all these incidents. They look at the threat levels for hurricanes, flooding, tornadoes, earthquakes, all this multitude of stuff. And they develop a plan, but it's more also about building relationships. So Mike can say, I can offer 3, bulldozers in this event, and this agency over here can offer. It's just kind of a thing like that. So we have to go through this process every so many years, mandated by the federal government. And this was our turn right here. So it's not a new document. It's just an updated document that we've had for several years, and we're just adopting it as our own. And we have to qualify for grants and things of that nature. So, and we don't want to be alone in the hazard.
No, that's true.
We would really like everyone's help, I'm sure. So I'm asking that you adopt this resolution so we can continue with that multi-jurisdictional plan. And I have the plan if you ever want to see it. It's really exciting.
How many pages is it?
It's
Yeah,
not like that. Well, I had the annex in this, and I noticed she didn't put it in there because it's probably too big. It explains all the Lindsay stuff, but we're actually in a pretty good flood zone, believe it or not. We have the Lewis Creek over there that's we get a little inundated, but other than that, we're pretty good.
All right, any other questions or comments? And what action would the council like to take?
Move for approval.
Moved by Watson,
Second.
seconded by Cortez. Would the clerk please take roll?
Councilmember Watson.
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez.
Aye.
Councilmember Velasquez.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next item is a minute order request authorization to bid, and this will be presented by Mike Camarena.
Thank you, Mayor Kemp. There's a map up on the screen here. The city was awarded a Proposition 1 Planning Grant 2016. The grant encompassed 2 projects, Well 14 DVCP mitigation and new production well. The Well 14 DVCP mitigation involves development of construction documents, and a technical report has been submitted to the State Water Board for review and approval prior to moving to the completion of the construction documents. Well 14 has been in compliance, and even test results received today, we continue to be in compliance with DVCP standards since November of 2016. However, state staff has required the completion of this portion of the grant. The new production well, while classified as a planning project, involves drilling a test well in search of quality and quantity of groundwater that could lead to the development of a new domestic well. This planning process involves a step of drilling and water testing at approved locations to support the development of a new production well. The task of new test well location has been a long and complicated procedure. Initially, there were 11 test well locations identified at 7 sites. The grant defined $250,000 to fund the drilling of up to 2 sites. Sites were located inside the city limits as well as outside the city limits. The city also received permission to test a well located in the southwest boundaries of the cities. However, the water quality results were not supportive of exploration in this area. It was an existing agricultural development inside the city limits. With the transition of the 11.5 acres of golf course land to soccer park, this created an opportunity to include this land in test well location consideration. There were several other locations in proximity to the site being considered, with permission being sought from private landowners, and this would be just due west of this property. The 11.5 acre site is owned by the city with water infrastructure located on Tulare Road and Sequoia Avenue frontages. Our consulting engineer for this project, Keller and Wegley, civil engineers of Vicella, prepared the attached figure which identifies potential test well and production well sites. Final approval and recommendation from hydrogeologist Ken Schmidt and subsequent approval from the State Water Board will allow the city to proceed with this test well. And the exhibit identifies a test well location located in the northwest corner, and then if we find quality and quantity, a proposed production well site in the southwest corner. We overlaid the proposed soccer fields with this site plan, and the soccer fields would still fit. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Do you, Mike? Any questions from the council? Comments?
Is that, when you're doing the proposed test well site, does that mean you're bringing in those machines and digging?
Yes.
How is that noise with the residents at that?
It's gonna be, yeah, it could be a 2 to 4 week process. Typically for a test well, they wouldn't be working through the night like a domestic well.
Okay.
So unless there was some demand to do some late night drilling, we would have to make sure that the residents are aware of what's going to be happening.
Mm-hmm. Do we have an idea of what the depth is?
We're looking at about 600 feet deep.
Mm-hmm. And if it does go through and we end up on the southwest corner, we'll have to build a fence around it, obviously, and that won't interfere with at all. Get plenty of room. Okay.
Right, there's plenty of room.
Very good.
And that's the only site that we have? That's some.
We've been looking at sites for
driving right into the main drag right there that overlooks everything.
Right.
Everything that we're planning on doing for the golf course.
It could be the perimeter fence, could be block, it could be a vine with chain link with vine. From the 11 sites we looked at the 7 locations, some in town, some on the east side of town, the cost for not only the production well and then tying into the existing infrastructure that we have. And then, again, recommendation from the hydrogeologist, there's certain features of this area and the property to the west that are attractive. But there's no guarantee we're going to find quality and quantity.
And we talked a long time about out by the high school, east part of town.
Those are some of the sites that were being seriously considered. We found out the high school has plans for a bulk of the property at the high school location.
Mm-hmm.
But it only looks good now because we're going to do something else with the property.
It could have still been developed with the golf course there, making adjustments to, I think that's number 5 or 6 green. But other properties to the west were being considered over this simply because of the golf course development. And now that the golf course has been closed, and trying to configure the 5 soccer fields that are proposed within those areas, it still works.
If I may, Council, Mike has been in discussions with the school district for, I would say, over a year on this, trying to get this located out there. We had a few locations out there that we thought would work, and ultimately their comment was they have a use for their site, and I think they have concerns about compatibility. Mike has been talking for a few months now with a large property owner to the west of this site, and they're not playing. And so you're looking at condemnation, potential, going through legal wranglings. This wasn't something that was determined, let's get rid of the golf course and do this. That's not the case at all. In fact, I didn't hear about it until after the soccer field had been identified and approved by you, that this was even a consideration. And then the first question is, will it fit? Is it going to work out okay? So this wasn't a long scheme that we had going. Mike has been working with this consultants for a long time, school district negotiations for a long time, and recent time, a month or so, with the major property owner that has the O'Hara property.
I mean, I'm sure we can, put some sort of fencing around there to make it almost invisible. And I'm guessing that the hookups will go underground into the existing water main.
The footprint shown, 100 by 175, is taking into consideration a hydropneumatic tank to provide consistent pressure. And if the quality is there, but is slightly out of compliance, we can provide filtration on site. If we get quality that doesn't need treatment, then we might be able to reduce that. If we elect to not install a hydropneumatic tank, we can reduce that size. So again, we're looking at site at probably the maximum area, and it really depends on the test well.
My concern too is a lot of people are not happy that, the golf course is closed, that soccer fields are going in there, and then putting this project there, then they're gonna say, well, even though, like you said, that wasn't the original intent, they're gonna say, well, you guys are kind of have your own agenda. So that's like my concern is, how is the public gonna perceive this?
We were in a drought, everybody would be saying, yeah, dig the well.
Well, the advantage is we own that property.
The advantage is we own the property. Any other property for consideration has to be appraised. The appraisal value offered to the property owner. If the property owner accepts it, that's great. If not, we negotiate. And if we don't and cannot come to terms, we could pursue condemnation and eminent domain.
How loud are those facilities? Are they pretty loud, or?
No.
It's not like we have over here on
the water treatment plant. Even the water treatment plant, when we're in the backwash cycle, is not necessarily that loud. I could get decibel readings there from outside the fence, but we're not. If we have to go to a treatment process, then we would be similar to that. It's substantially smaller.
I mean, we couldn't put it on the where it says proposed test well site
in that corner.
Yeah. It's just the aesthetics. I mean, it's gonna look awful. You guys could put vine on it. You could put a block wall that looks great and everything. I mean, but you're gonna take away the whole view of that. I mean, is there a reason why you picked that spot?
Somewhere.
You typically don't want to drill a production well within 100-foot proximity of your test well. So you want to stay away from that. We actually looked adjacent to the parking lot, so that would be due east, just north of there, for the final well. But that could be one of the primary entrances to the soccer park overall. And so that, again, we're trying to look at about 100 by 175 rectangle to accommodate.
Can you flip the test well site and the proposed production well site?
That's a possibility.
I mean, if it's not loud, because there is houses there.
Right.
I mean, if it was loud, I would.
Right. That's a possibility. Yes.
It's going to be louder than playing soccer, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
To me, it's like, we took away the golf course because it wasn't servicing that many people. And now we're putting in soccer fields, and it's going to service more people, but a well would service everybody, right? So, I mean, to me, we
I don't really see the problem with putting it over by the parking lot. I mean, people can walk around it.
The parking lot.
The cost of hooking up to the main line would increase because you're going to have to go all the way across the soccer fields. And I mean, if the quality is there, it will actually help to decrease some of the other contaminants as it mixes.
We can't look at it that way.
Oh,
we have to look at individualized sources.
I see. But possibly.
Possibly, yeah.
Right.
Where's the main line at?
We have a main line, and I believe the main line in Tulare Road is a 12-inch main line. In Sequoia Avenue, I believe it's an 8-inch. So again, it depends on what pressures we want to maintain, whether the hydro-pneumatic tank's involved. If we do propose that we flip those two sites, we'd probably have to go with the hydro-pneumatic tank in the northwest corner, and we might be able to option out of the hydro-pneumatic tank in the southwest corner because we have a higher or a bigger main line over time.
And it's going to be a 12-inch line going down?
It really depends on capacity.
I see. What will the test well be? 8, 10, 12?
The test well is probably going to be up to a 6-inch.
6-inch.
All we're doing is looking for signs of water.
Very good. That makes sense.
Mike, do we have a deadline in which we have to perform on this?
Yes, we do. December of this year, we have to have this grant project wrapped up.
So if council is concerned about approving this now, we could form an ad hoc committee to go through options with you. We can provide more detail for the whole council. We want you to be comfortable with whatever decision you make.
I'm comfortable.
Well, I mean, I agree we need the well. There's no, I mean, we're not saying that. It's the aesthetics from that position. Right
Is
there.
this actually saying, I mean, if we approve this, we're approving where the well will go, or are we just
The
approving?
request tonight is to be able to bid the process. The exhibit identifies a location. Because we're looking at an 11-acre site. And so because of the open nature of the golf course and its city-owned property, I can go back to the consultant and say, council wants to flip these and see what his response is, and then the response from the hydrogeologist.
But are you bidding both of them, Mike, or are you bidding only the test well right
Test
now?
well only. The request tonight is to bid the
Let's see,
test
he
well.
said you can't put the production well where they dug the.
Where you dug the
Right,
test well.
there has to be a
Yeah.
separation.
I have no problem.
Trying to make a motion. Are we ready yet?
I guess up to the council, I'm not sure I'm ready yet, but because what does a well look like when you put one in?
A final well?
How ugly is it?
I mean,
It's a great big pump.
Well, it's an above ground turbine pump. It's maybe 4 or 5 feet above ground. If it's a submersible, you
bucket.
don't see a pump at all.
Madam Mayor, if we could make a suggestion, I'll have you do it, council.
Mike, can we bid it so that we have them submit alternative bids, one for where the proposed site is up there, and then an alternative of down in the corner? And then, because we'll be pretty close, even if we moved it east.
Right.
I mean, we'd be pretty close to, that's not gonna throw off the bids a whole ton, I would think. And then we can pick this, we can come back to council and pick this specific location next time, or?
Right. Again, I would say this is for the authorization to bid the test well only. I can go back to the consultant and say, can we just flip these locations? Put the test well on the south side, if we get quality and quantity out of the test well, propose the production well on the north side.
Or give us the options.
Yeah.
Or give the
I mean,
options, yeah.
we're approving the test well.
We're approving
And then
the-
if we find good water, then we can come back and say, okay, where are options of where
the
to put it?
options, yeah.
Is that?
I'm hearing, though, that we'd rather not see a final production well on the Tulare Road frontage. And we'd rather put it somewhere not so visible.
Well, if it's submersible, that kind of mitigates some of the.
But it's still going to be a relatively
Right.
secure area. So
Oh,
we're going to
yeah.
have it completely fenced.
Fencing
Right,
around
yeah.
it and all that.
I mean, if we put a block ball in front that says what we're calling the Lindsay soccer, I mean, where it's something you're seeing that's looking good, that looks good. Because that's
Sure.
we're gonna put a lot of money into that place.
I never go by that corner. Never see it. I never see it.
Well,
Never
I see
even
it
go
pretty
by
often.
I see it.
I go all the way to the
road.
But if we could use the block walls, the signage
You know,
for the
something-
sports park, yeah, that's a good idea.
I mean, even a wall's gonna be 6
big thing
feet or
is
something. If it's gonna
City
cover up
Park.
to 4 feet, I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but that's gotta be factored into the bid.
Right.
to make sure that it comes out right. And I don't want a chain link fence because we're trying to get rid of that chain link fence in that area, and we're trying to get rid of the hedge, the oleanders. So I mean, if it's gonna cover up everything, and that's my only thought anyway. But I mean, if we can do something nice, I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Wrought iron fence. Yeah. All of
Just
that.
something that, I mean, because it's, the way they build things nowadays, as far as the pumps and stuff like that, they're not big old hunky things anymore, you know?
Again, the unknown now, do we have to provide pressurization, which means a hydropneumatic tank, which is what we have at well 11, and do we have to treat with filtration, which means a very small version of our water treatment plant, and that's what that footprint would accommodate. If we don't have to, we might be able to size it down considerably and take those components out.
I think we should move forward on at least awarding.
You mind doing what Mara said?
Yeah, we can come back.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, I move that we go ahead and authorize for the proposed test well site. At least, let's get that information going.
Second.
That didn't say anything about what we wanted to see.
No,
That's saying do it exactly the way it
Move the
is.
second.
So what staff is hearing is you'd like to move forward with going out with an RFP to do a test well, but you have concerns about the location and the appearance of the final well, and you'd like to have another dialogue about that, I think.
But there's a motion in the second, so I mean, I say no. Not right now. Till we get that back.
Or if the motion could be adjusted to suggest that they give us a couple options.
Well, they've already made a motion, so we gotta go
I know,
downstairs, so-
but we're just
The
saying.
motion is second, what do we do, Martin?
Well, I think, my opinion, I think Councilmember Watson's motion is, what he said right now is different than his actual motion. So if he wants, his motion was to approve it as is. If he wants staff to come to either bid multiple sites, is that what I'm hearing?
That would be fine
Clarifying
too.
that.
Okay.
I mean, whatever, as long as we can get it in motion, let the hydrogeologist and the engineers decide what is the best spots. And
That's what they did.
we'll have to take their advice, but let's get the ball rolling.
Okay, so the motion as amended would be to direct staff to proceed with bidding the test well sites, but in multiple locations as they see fit.
Exactly.
And is that seconded? That motion is amended? Doesn't sound like it.
I already seconded it one time, I mean, is there somebody else?
Well, you got a second as amended.
Go ahead.
I'll second as amended.
All right,
There you go.
all right, the
Make-
clerk,
That way you guys.
please
be
take
happy.
roll.
All right, Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas,
Aye.
Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion, well, it was just a minute order, I guess, and we made a big production out of it.
You guys sure did.
Anyway,
Well, I mean,
it was approved.
Not pointing fingers.
Okay. All right, our next item is a resolution, and this will be presented, oh, no, it's not, it's another minute order. Minute order, energy audit request for proposal.
And it should only take a minute.
Oh, now I gotta think about it now.
Mike.
I'm not gonna jump on everything.
The city is proposing to pursue a qualified consultant via request for proposal process for development and implementation of an energy efficiency program and project. City's goal is to utilize financial savings realized for more efficient buildings and facilities and apply those savings towards upgrades and programs that enhance occupant comfort, building performance, and increased facility efficiency. The selected firm will support the city's goal by offering a turnkey energy savings program that accomplishes, I think there are 10 items identified in the goals of the RFP. The RFP is included in the council agenda packet. There is one request for change tonight, In the qualifying criteria of the RFP, it identifies that the consultant be located within 45 miles of the city of Lindsay. And that would probably exclude every single consultant that would be looking at this project. So the request tonight is to work with City Attorney Zamora, come up with a statement to the effect that working within Tulare County with corporate or home offices within California for qualified consultants. That would be the only change to the RFP. The RFP is, if council approves this, is not scheduled to be released until next Tuesday, which is May 1st. And so with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, go ahead, Danny.
Is this anything, well, we already, what is that?
Yeah,
Climatex?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We
we've
went
been
through the
talking
audit.
about this.
Oh, this is the next part of it, or?
Yes.
This is the detailed audit.
This is
So
the-
they did a generalized audit to
Oh.
see if it was feasible or not, and it appears that there could be savings. And so now a detailed, we've got an RFP for anyone who wants to apply for it, to do a detailed audit. We'll see what the savings could be, then we'll talk with council about the direction to proceed with that information.
Okay.
The city identified City Hall, City Services, 3 accounts for public safety, the Wellness Center, the Aquatics Facility, our water treatment plant, wastewater plant, Olive Bowl, primarily for lighting, Chamber of Commerce Building, Corporation Yard, and then City Wells 14 and 15 as the identified facilities. We also identified in the bid schedule an alternate facility of McDermott Fieldhouse. So those are the facilities that we are targeting for this type of audit.
Did they provide an estimate of what our savings would be with their general?
Not specifically, no. But that's the purpose of this RFP.
I see, okay.
And grants would be explored to see what,
Sure.
how it can be front-loaded, right?
Yeah. Well, if we move forward with the way it is, would the field house be excluded or included?
Included as an alternate bid item.
Okay.
Since we don't control lights, flow ride, or operation,
Right.
What kind of savings can be seen or efficient projects can be identified, but we don't control how it's operated.
And it currently is a city-owned building. We know the operators would like to purchase it, so we want to be careful about what, if we have to put money into it, or can it be paid for by the savings that they generate at the facility. So we just want to get a benchmark of where that is to determine if that's worth, talking to council about whether it's worth pursuing or not.
Right.
Okay. If there's no more questions, what action would the council like to take?
Move for approval. Second.
Moved by Velasquez, seconded by Watson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Item 11 is Resolution 1817, the 2018 transit agreement between City of Lindsay and County of Tulare. Mike.
Thank you, Mayor Kimball. Consistent with previous years, the service agreement specifically provides dial-a-ride services, also referred to as demand services, for Lindsay residents inside the city limits. Exhibit A shows the boundary of this demand response service, and this request is to approve the operational agreement supporting the resolution for transit services inside the city limits only. The agenda item identifies the ridership differences, and then also identifies senior, handicap, and children riders. It's a reduction from last year, or from 15-16 and 16-17. The numbers there. Funding for this agreement has historically been through the city's STA, or State Transit Assistance funding, identified with some other funding becoming available, specifically SB1 State of Good Repair funds that are specific to transit operations, PTMISEA, that's a little bit further down, funds from 2016, 2017, and then Cal OES funds, which are specific to safety operations within a transit provider. The city has traded some of our funds, which we cannot use since we are only a signer on county agreement with the county. And so the proposed 1819 transit service is $64,699, but with the credits identified with monies that were given to the county, that would reduce this year's transit cost to $32,976.15. So some of the projects we have done in the past, specifically with the PTMISEA funds, have been building bus shelters throughout the city. So operational improvements, and we don't have specific operational improvements, and so we have traded that money with the county in those 2 years. The impact on the STA funds, though, the State Transit Assistance Funds, is we're able to carry those monies over for future transit projects. And so the less we can impact that, the more benefit we may see in the future if the city pursues a transit operation or transit facility. So Mayor Kimball talked about some type of transition with dial-a-ride, and the county is looking at something similar to a fixed route system for dial-a-ride. And if somebody calls in that is off the fixed route, then they would vary and go pick up the call in and then go back to route. They're exploring it. I don't know if they're going to move forward with it in this calendar year or not. So that's what I've heard from county transit, but it's just a conversation at this point in time. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
How does this amount compare to the last time we made an agreement with the county?
Last year's number was about 85,000. So because drop in ridership, there's a drop in the service, projected service cost.
That's a big drop of riders.
It's a big drop.
I mean, you know, from 670 to almost 200 children, and then the handicap going from 460 to 100.
Yeah.
Right. That's a huge drop.
A big part of it was in between those 2 years, and again, we're looking at 15, 16, and 16, 17. The county raised some prices. And there were restrictions in the past with an adult. There were unlimited children allowed, and I think they restricted it now to 2 children per adult.
Staff is recommending
approval.
All right, Jeff's recommending approval. If there's no further questions, what action would council like to take?
Move for approval.
Moved by Cortez.
Second.
Seconded by Velasquez. Would the clerk please take roll?
Councilmember Cortez.
Aye.
Councilmember Velasquez.
Aye.
Councilmember Watson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Salinas.
Aye.
And Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. And there's one more item for Mike Camarena tonight. Resolution
I'm trying to
1818.
catch up here.
Resolution of the City of Lindsay to adopt a list of projects funded by SB1, the Road Repair and Accountability Act.
Thank you, Mayor Kimball. SB1 created the Road Maintenance Rehabilitation Program. This request this evening is required if the city is going to take advantage of this coming year's funds that are available. What is also required is that the resolution included in your council agenda, we can go to that page, identifies streets that could utilize SB1 money. It's page 79. There it is. So the streets that are identified in this particular resolution were taken off of the council-approved street list. There is an addition, however, and that was the addition of the roundabout at Westwood and Hermosa Street. So the table shows potential pre-construct dates with construction dates, their projections. At this point in time, SB1 is relatively new. And so if we were to say, the first one, for example, a surface seal of the downtown area, we have until 2021 to deliver the project. What we're experiencing though now is the SB1 money is not coming in, at least to Lindsay, on a consistent basis. So it's still a relatively new program. And so, but this is a requirement to take advantage of next year's money. If council approves this, this has to be submitted to the state. And with that, we have to answer questions.
Questions?
So, do you have a sense as to why the SB1 money is sporadic?
No, I don't. We've received one payment. I think that's what that is.
I have a question about the roundabout because I thought we had other funding for that, so I don't understand it, why it's on here, especially since we needed to do it so quickly.
The roundabout funding was identified. The unknown right now is what the actual construction cost is. We've had estimates anywhere from $1.4 million to over $2 million. And if we need to develop or have additional funds on hand, then I'd rather have something identified and an additional funding source as opposed to scrambling to try and find additional funding source to fill any gaps. We won't know what the bids are until we open those documents.
The other funding sources that we're using right now, are we using CMAQ?
Self-help had some transportation money, and TCAG, or Measure R.
We're
was
using Measure
indefinite.
R, but we're not using CMAQ.
No, there's no CMAQ money involved.
Is that a possibility to use CMAQ money?
No. It would have had to been programmed and approved probably 2 years ago.
Okay.
I understand the benefit of having a backstop or a reserve in case the bids come back a little higher than initially projected. But I'm a little more than concerned about us the city having to put any money into that roundabout when Self-Help Enterprises pretty much told us that they would have it covered.
And that's what we've been telling people too, in fact.
But they identified a fixed amount.
Right.
The self-help project identified $1 million to be put towards the roundabout.
Right. And so they kind of estimated that based on the omni-means or as a general number, but now there may be some additional numbers that could affect that.
Well, I know we have talked about some Measure R. I don't know if it's our pedestrian money or going into that. So that's our backup. And I don't know how much we have of that.
Unfortunately, the bids, the informal estimates we've had on this, there's a big split. And I don't like it either, but if we don't create some reserve, we may hit a spot and we simply can't build it. And it would be a shame to lose the project and lose $1 million. We're hoping that it's going to come in on the low end, but we won't know until he bids, and we've been pressing real hard to get the bid out so that we have hard numbers to work with. The timing is such that this has to go before we have the bids, unfortunately.
Is this sure money if you put it on this SB1 list? Because you're saying you're not even getting, your money's in.
Well, at least we could tell our partners building the roundabout that we have approved this.
Right, the SB1 dollars are supposed to be available, but again, from what I understand, it's coming to the agencies on a monthly basis. And I didn't follow up with any other agencies to see if they've been receiving SB1 funds on a monthly or regular basis. I just know, talking to finance director here, that and this year's money was not expected to be any six-figure value, but next year's is supposed to.
Or next year's it could be voted out and we don't even get anything. So
that right?
Mike's the Ashland, where's that area you're talking about?
Ashland, Fraser, and Eastwood, that would be surrounding what was known as the Inglesby subdivision. So it's essentially north of Hermosa to Fraser. It's a relatively small area. The streets were new when subdivision was developed.
Mario, do I have to recuse myself on a property on Ashland?
On the other side of the road.
This is
Well, it's still within 500 feet, right?
Hermosa to Fraser, between Ashland and Eastwood.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I would mention to council, this is a for what it's worth comment, the concerns that you have in the wrestling that you're doing with this, it's happened at the staff level already. We've been going through this and these guys have been getting beat up on. You know, this has been our message. Our message is it's grant funded, Measure R funded, and then we learned that TCAG doesn't have all the resources. They have a cash flow issue too. That was one of the things we were actually counting on. And so we would like to play nice there and see if we can't find multiple ways to deal with this. But our hope is that it's going to come in toward the low end of the informal estimate that we had.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've got to do it.
Okay. Other questions or comments? If not, what action would the council like to take?
Move for approval.
Been moved for approval for Resolution 1818. Is there a second? No one wants a second.
Hello.
You can do it.
You want me to do it second?
I can do it if either one of you want to do
I've
it.
done that. I already did
All right.
it.
Well, that's good.
When you have to talk about it
Would
anyway.
the clerk please take roll?
Sorry, who was the first one?
It was
Watson.
Watson.
See, you just so caught up in my speech.
Yeah.
Councilmember Velasquez,
Aye.
Councilmember Cortez,
Aye.
and Mayor Kimball.
Aye. Motion carries.
Nobody
4-0.
called Danny back.
Danny recused.
We'll just leave him out there.
There, he's about there.
He'd probably be happy enough. We just.
We don't need him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
You know, may I ask just a quick question? You know, on a lot of this, the contractor, no, you're good, you're good. Yeah. You know, part of the Measure O calculus was to be able to capture sales with this zip code, internet sales and things of that nature. Are we making sure that as these contractors and different vendors are buying their material to service the city, that they are setting up some sort of a location with our zip code to purchase that material so we can capture the Measure O money?
Is that a future agenda item you're talking about? Because I don't see it on the,
Yeah, maybe it
on the
is.
agenda.
Okay, well, if that's the way we need to do it, that's okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we'll do it that way. Sorry.
Our next item is a minute order. Request for council members to serve on an ad hoc committee to explore the city's relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. And Bill Ziegler will talk us through that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So last year, we signed a contract with the Chamber, council approved, setting a fee per session for the Friday night market of $2,000. After much debate, it had been reduced to that amount because the ad hoc committee was looking closer to $3,000 per session. But we did that to kind of ease into this. We worked with the Chamber, with their accountant, and concluded that much tightening needed to occur with the financial accounting of how the market was running. And so it's been a year, and the contract allowed for an automatic increase. It says in 2018, the market event fee payable to the city shall be increased to $2,500 per market event. And then there's a listing of exceptions. The chamber director and at least one chamber member have said, we can't afford it. We can't go to $2,500. We've requested some financials. We've received them. I believe there's still much lacking in the documentation. Up until very recently, it had been a economy. And we believe that there are better ways to do that. I met with the Chamber Board just last week to discuss some of this. I provided a summary of my comments to them, and I forwarded that to you as well, talking about trying to help actually with organizational structure, with political structure. And I think it's time to have a chat with an ad hoc committee just to see what this relationship is to be. Again, they said that they couldn't afford to pay it, but I don't have good evidence to show that that is the case. They have Nice and Penny from Nice's agency here doing bookkeeping for them, and they believe they'll have some more information to provide in the beginning of May that will hopefully clarify that position. But I just think it's been so tenuous, and I provided also what our cost per session is generated by city services. At $2,000, it's a wash. And so it's not covering the wear and tear that's happening there, and it seems to be a singular focus, the Friday night market. So I think it's time to have a chat with council and see what your vision is for our relationship with the chamber and the Friday night market. I'm looking for a couple of ad hoc members if council so desires.
All right, any discussion, is the council on this? Are we interested in forming a committee?
Well, it's just a couple comments. I think that, the relationship between the chamber and the city has been one has changed over the years since I've been on it. And, I mean, if they have their own board, they have their own staff, and, I mean, for us, I don't feel comfortable questioning their, if they tell us they can't afford it. I mean, they're partners with us, and I trust them, and because we worked with them for so long, and we developed this relationship, and I think that's, to me, it seems untrustworthy. I guess I'm not trusting them, and I don't not comfortable with that. I think also that I think that we do need to cover the cost for running the service, or whatever the city's incurring from running the farmers market or any other event. Don't throw tomatoes at me, but OBF, rib cook-off, whatever city has to contribute to cover that, then we should be reimbursed for that, regardless of the event. The same as the farmers market. Now we're talking about long-term, wear and tear, which is a little harder because they bring so many people, but they're also bringing a lot of people to us in this community. We're going to benefit from that, from our tax measures. So I think we have to take that into consideration.
They're not charging tax at the market.
That's true, but I see them, going to the markets, going to put in gas, so they indirectly they do that. And I know that some shop even buy stuff here. My son-in-law was doing a booth at the market. They bought all their goods from here, so I would guess that some of the market sellers would do the same thing. I realize a lot of them come from out of town, but there's still some that are from here, and it would be easier to buy here and sell it than to truck it, from wherever they're coming from. So the less stuff to haul, it's just, to me, it's more convenient. But I don't have a booth, so I couldn't tell you exactly how they're doing it. But that's my opinion.
I think another thing that we can do is if we are, because we can't get public funds no matter what. That's period. So if we were to turn over or have the chamber buy all the products that we allow them to use, and then they get their own workers and they do everything. The stuff is kind of old, but it's still worth something. That way they're not using any of the city's equipment, I guess, and they were able to purchase it, and then that keeps them on where we're not doing anything. So then at that point, the $2,500 or $2,000 that we come up with, we get that and we actually put it into good use. But as far as if we're charging $2,500 and we're giving another $1,000, it's $3,500, and then it's just not, it's never gonna make sense to anybody. But if they own, if the chamber owned their own product, equipment, you know, and we're out of that area, then we have nothing to say about that. We get our 2,000, we get our 2,500, whatever it is at that point. And we have nothing to say about it unless something goes awry and nothing, I mean, it's not being taken care of. Well, then we have to at that point. But as far as an ad hoc committee, you know, that's what I would want to figure out, how to get them to be self-sufficient.
And also, we have a contract right now that says that they're supposed to be paying $2,500. They're not. They're saying they can't. And I don't have evidence to support that, trust or no trust. I don't have the evidence to support that. And I have to go by the contract unless council directs me to do otherwise. And I'll do what you guys want, but that's where we are.
So I think it's clear there's, I'm sorry, you go
Oh, I
ahead.
was gonna say that, yeah, maybe we need to go back on the contract. So, and you know that when you guys are here, and when I was the one that was wanting to go with the higher amount, so, because we thought that would work for them, but if it's not working for them, then, I mean, I'd rather, fall in favor of them keeping it going than, you know, stopping the program. I wouldn't want to see the farmer's market end. And it's gonna, it may end at some point, but, what's that?
At $2,000, it's not sustainable. That's why, like the suggestions of Mayor Pro Tem, that's something worth pursuing if that's what you want to do. But right now, we're spending about $2,000 per session, and you're having wear and tear. You walked it, you were frustrated by what you saw, and we'll never have a nickel to do anything with that. It's going to continue to deteriorate with the status quo. Something needs to change, whatever you decide.
So I think there are issues that need to be addressed, and it's more difficult for all of us here to sit down and try and decide right now what are we going to do about this contract. So I agree that forming a committee to really look into it and come back with some suggestions could be the best way to go. I'm for that.
And I agree with you, Pam. I don't think that, you know, it's a trust issue. If anything, you know, it creates more communication and the relationship continues to grow. And that way we get the facts and the details firsthand and not maybe have to wait so long. Because I know it's been a while, and although it's a work in progress because we have been getting a little bit more, we're still not at the point where we have all the information that has been requested.
If I could just build on a little something that Danny said. So do we have an idea of what the city's per session cost is right now, you know, as far as the employees and doing all that?
That was in the attachment that I sent you.
I see.
You have that.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'll look that up.
I don't remember seeing it.
Merges out there too.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know city manager says that it's like a wash, but if you really look at it, we are making money for the city. We do pay $700 for the harbor area and $330 for the stage area. So that's really like income to you guys, because if for instance the market's not there any other months, you're not getting that $1,130 on that. And really, if you really look at it on Friday, if you guys drive by there, and I'm sure a lot of you have driven by there on Friday morning or Thursday night, if you go right now, it's dirty. The downtown is dirty with the leaves and some trash and whatever. You know, we clean the downtown every Friday night. If you guys drive by there on Saturday morning, it's clean. We clean trash cans that are there for the whole week. We clean the streets that are dirty for the whole week. You know, that area, I mean, on Saturday mornings, I do send a lady, we do have a lady that goes and cleans all the surrounding, you know, further down. I mean, so it's not like it's not an income. We don't use city workers to do anything. We have our own workers. I mean, we don't mind paying for the rent and whatever of the areas. I know there's some things that we were getting charged for that's ours, you know. So, but I mean, that's not the thing. The thing is that you are making money because we are using the harbor and we are renting the stage area and we do clean it up. I know the homeless right there where the men's bathroom is. It's awful on during the week. You know, but on Friday we get that all cleaned out and stuff, and I mean, I mean, we do clean up, and we do clean up the downtown, and like I say, we do, you know, I'm there till 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning till everything is cleaned up, and I see everything. And I know that you guys are saying about the wear and tear, but gosh, you know, other cities would really like this wear and tear on there. You know, it's not like we're having semis drive through. There's people walking and stuff, and I mean, we clean up.
Is that 1,000 on top of the 2,000? Is that
I can
1,000?
provided the list.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a breakdown of equipment primarily. The biggest equipment contribution are the light towers. And so those, and I don't even want to venture to say what the cost per light tower for purchase is.
But the $1,100 that Steve asked, is that in there?
Because they said it was 2,000 is what they're paying us, and then she's paying us 1,000.
Right.
Is that part of the 2,000, the facility fee?
I don't think so.
So they're really paying 3,000.
Right, I think it's a separate cost.
And I need clarification because I didn't have that. So you're paying in addition to the $2,000 per session, you're paying what you're saying you're paying? Because I've not heard that in the billing at all.
In the breakdown, there was the whole breakdown. It says the Mercado renting and everything, and that's everything.
Okay.
It's in the $2,000.
It's in the $2,000.
It's in-
It's included in the $2,000.
It's included in the $2,000.
So you're not making $3,000.
Okay.
Well, all right, we're
Back
not
to the
really
point,
set
though.
up to discuss all of this tonight on the agenda. The item is, do we want to form a committee to explore these issues or not?
Yeah, I mean, if we need to figure
we
out
have to.
if we're not, if it's not.
You have to do it, yeah.
Like I said, I think it's an opportunity to build a more positive
Sure.
relationship and more opportunities for everybody.
Well, and two, I think, especially when we're dealing with governmental agencies, and, you know, in the chamber is kind of any chamber, kind of a quasi-governmental agency, transparency is critical. And because, you know, from our point of view, we've got to be able to go back to the citizens and say, this is what it is, or we're going to be held accountable.
And that's so true because a lot of people think, oh, you guys are generating a lot of revenue out of that Friday night market. And it's not true. We're not, because the city's not running it. It's ran by the chamber, which is what I tell people when they tell me that, because they think that. Because they see that a lot of people do come and there is a lot going on.
Yeah. So. Yeah.
Well, if the majority is interested in forming a committee, are there volunteers to be on that committee?
I'd be interested.
I would too.
So we have two right there.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I know this is difficult, but I think it can be productive. And the goal here is to have something that works well for all parties considered. We'd love for it to be a win-win. So thank you.
Do we need more of a minute order on this? Do we need a vote?
Yes.
Okay,
So
so,
motion to form the committee and appoint Councilwoman
appoint.
Cortez and Mayor Pro Tem.
right, so someone want to make that motion?
So move.
Second.
And moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
I guess that's it.
On that
Thank you. Any future agenda item requests, except what was it that Brian wanted?
If I may, just real quickly, you know, as I mentioned earlier, I'll make it quick. So we need to make sure that as these vendors are doing things for the city to the best of our ability, we need to, as they're buying product, if they can have a zip code established somehow, kind of like what's that pipeline company 99 or whatever, they have a little office, may not have to be that, you know, extreme, but it would just seem to me that it would be beneficial for us when they're buying $500,000 worth of asphalt, concrete, whatever, to do this, that, or the other thing, that we are able to capture that sales tax.
How does that work, Matt?
So there are construction projects in particular work a little differently than other things do. And so we have a firm that does the monitoring for us to ensure that we're getting the sales tax and transactions and use tax we're supposed to on these projects. So I will go back and ask them. They're meeting with me the first week in May for a sales tax review.
Mhm.
And I can ask the question
Yeah.
just to make sure they're on top of that. But there are special rules dealing with construction projects that typically don't feed into the community the same way that other things might.
I mean, just think, just for a moment, this self-help enterprise project. Can you imagine what the value of that lumber, roofing, all those materials are? And I'll bet that they're buying it with a Visalia zip code. Yep.
I mean, typically where they're home based.
Yeah, but I think I remember one other city in Kings County when they had a huge solar project, had the contractor, and we're talking multi-million-dollar solar project, they required that contractor to set up shop in that zip code so they could capture all the sales tax.
Okay. Okay. Well, just so you know, I'm paying my Measure O. I made an online order today and
Good job.
typed in my zip code, and then something popped up and said, "Are you within the city limits or outside the city limits?" And you're, and I clicked in the city limits, so I paid my Measure O sales tax. I thought that was, I hadn't seen that before.
Keep buying.
That's right.
Shop some more.
That's interesting because in some shops even, I mean, I've been even out of state and they ask, what's your zip code? But I haven't.
So not only they want to know the zip code, they want to know if I was in that zip code outside the city limits or inside the city
They're trying to
limits.
do that right now anyway, right? Where everything gets taxed.
Yeah, but I'm concerned about you being able to opt out.
Well,
You said
that's
no
true. I
outside
could
the
have
city.
clicked on outside the city.
I'm thinking people will do that.
Alrighty.
Anyway,
We didn't even consider that, huh?
anyway, let's call this meeting adjourned. Thank everyone for being here tonight.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.